Hey YouTube, I'm back with another religious studies video. We're going to talk about Buddhism today. I know I still got to go over the yogas from Hinduism, and I don't feel like it. Each section on the yogas in the Hinduism book is really not that extensive. So I looked at it, I was like, yeah, this may not even be necessary. But since I said I was going to do it, I'm going to do it eventually, all right? But we're going to move on to Buddhism right now, all right? Buddhism. I love Buddhism. I love talking about Buddhism. Y'all bear with me. It's a beautiful day outside to me, okay? Because it's like it's got a little chill in the air, but it's got like that springtime chill in the air. And the wind is blowing, and spring is here. According to somebody's calendar, spring is here, and summer is on its way. And I've been having a lot of conversations with people lately here in the city of Cleveland. And it's usually the same thing. I don't like it here. Everybody's trying to leave Cleveland or wants to leave Cleveland. Well, I can't say everybody, but we just talk about the changes, the city has gone through and whatnot. And, but one thing that we can all agree on, I'm always like, yeah, but in the summertime, Cleveland is beautiful. It is a beautiful, beautiful place here in the summertime. And I think because we still have a lot of our trees. I talked about that in my video when I went to the river, how we still have a lot of our trees, so it's a lot of greenery and everything. It's just beautiful. And everybody agrees, yeah, it's beautiful in the summertime. At least the people that I've talked to, we can all agree it's beautiful in the summertime. Otherwise it's just cloudy here. It's just gray and cloudy, and like one of my little cousins said, it's dusty. It just looked dusty, okay? But nevertheless, so it's a beautiful day, and it's a little overcast, but it's still just, I don't know, it just feels good. It's just that springtime, thing going on, and summer is coming. So I'm pretty excited about that. I always love summertime. I love summertime, but I don't like the extremes of winter and summer here. I don't like the extreme, but at the same time, the extreme heat and extreme cold, I like that middle of the way, but nevertheless. But the only thing about it that's kind of bothering me, like it's April 6th. I always, every spring around this time, I always, look at the trees, the branches and everything to see when, it's starting to bud. I haven't seen it. I'm looking at a tree right now. I don't see it. And now I was driving through it. I'm like, I don't see any buds coming through yet. So, but I may wake up tomorrow and see some, so when it comes is when it comes, But nevertheless, let's just go ahead and get into Buddhism, the beginnings of Buddhism. Okay. And it's supposed to rain too today, but it hasn't so far. So we'll see what happens. Okay, I think I'm gonna turn my car off. I usually like listening to music, but I don't know. Really not in the mood for it. Some kind of meditation music or something. But we're just going, I don't want to hear it right now for some reason, but that's all right. All right, the beginnings of Buddhism, the life of the Buddha. Buddhism is one of the world's oldest and most significant religion. It's spread throughout all of Asia, influencing many of the cultures in Asia. And of course, now there is a, following here in the West. Its beginnings were in India and arose from the experience of one person. All right. Now, with Hinduism, we didn't have, they couldn't find the origins of Hinduism. Okay, they haven't been able to find the origins of Hinduism. At least, as last I understood. Like I said, my edition here is kind of an older edition, but I want to say I haven't heard anything, but I haven't looked up anything to hear anything either. Okay, so when I go over these religions and I talk about the founders, okay, there is question whether many of these founders actually even existed. Like, people question the existence of Jesus. Was there even a Jesus at all? Okay. Some say that there's proof that there wasn't one. Some say that there's proof that there was one. Okay. But it's not just with Jesus. The question of the person who became known as the Buddha, we're going to get into that in a minute, was questionable. It's questionable as well. Did this person even exist? Okay. So I just want to keep that in mind as we go over these. All right. India in the 5th century BCE, before Christian era. okay, was in a state of religious ferment. Great enthusiasm for personal religious experience led people to experiment with meditation and deep breathing and to study with gurus. All right, so a lot was going on in the religious sector, basically. All right, so people were, kind of like now, people questioning, organized religion, moving away from that, okay, going more into what they deem as spiritual things, okay, like, again, like meditation, studying, like with gurus, so on and so forth, okay. A growing number of schools of philosophy taught new ways of thinking, some of which opposed the growth of the priestly Vedic religion or the traditional religion, or that, well, I don't know if I should call it organized, but in a sense organized, like I said, because, we see that happening now. People question. Now, I'm talking about here in the West. I can't talk about, everywhere all over the world. That's not my experience, all right? But people beginning, leaving more your religious traditional settings, okay, moving away from that. So into this world came Siddhartha Guatama. Siddhartha Guatama, he became known as the Buddha or the Awakened One, okay? That is what, his name wasn't Buddha, okay? It's a title, just like Christ is a title, okay? Christ wasn't Jesus' last name, it's a title. It's like, I guess you could say Jesus the Christ, okay? But we say Jesus Christ, all right? So same here with Siddhartha Gautama became known as the Buddha. What does it mean? The Awakened One or Enlightened, all right? Now, who was this man? He was born the son of a prince, okay, of the Shakya tribe, and that is Nepal today, in the lower Himalaya mountains. His mother, this is legend, his mother, whose name was Maya, and we will find that a lot of the founders, not all of the founders, but a lot of the founders of various religions, their mother name was like Mary or a derivative of. Okay, Mary. It's funny, we were watching, me and my daughter were watching Batman versus Superman the other night, and Batman and Superman were fighting, and Batman was pretty much kicking Superman's ass, of course, when he got the kryptonite on him, okay, because that's the only way he was going to be able to defeat him. And when he really had him down, Superman said, "You're letting them kill Martha." Batman kind of backed up, like, "Why did you say that name?" Because Batman's mother's name was Martha as well. And in that particular movie, they were questioning whether Superman, they were looking at him like as a god. Is he a god or is he a devil? All right. Anyway, so his mother, Maya, Siddhartha Gautama, she dreamt that a white elephant entered her side. This was the moment of the conception of the future Buddha. And Siddhartha was born miraculously from her side. Now, what's interesting is, for those of you who are familiar with the Nag Hammadi, and they talk about the birth of, I want to say God, but what they call him, the demiurge, or Yaldabaoth, same thing. He was born from his mother's side. Is that right? Yeah, he was born from his mother's side, all right? And the thing with him is, he wasn't conceived, he was conceived by his mother alone, all right? His mother is, I think the Pistis Sophia, okay? So you can find that story in the Nag Hammadi. So that's interesting. So you're going to see like a lot of similarities in all of these stories, all right? Siddhartha's mother died a week after childbirth, and he was raised by his aunt. Siddhartha Gautama was raised by his aunt. Okay. When a sage inspected the child, he saw special marks on Siddhartha's body, indicating that he would be an illustrious person or a great person. He was going to do something great. He was going to be great. They had a naming ceremony for him, and at the naming ceremony, the priest foretold that his life could go in one of two directions. He was either going to be follow in his father's footsteps. Okay, he was a prince, so his father was a king, or that he was going to become follow in his footsteps, become a king, okay, a world ruler, okay. But the other way he could go was that if he was exposed to suffering, he would become a great spiritual leader or a world teacher. So he was going to be world renowned one way or the other, depending on what road he chose for himself. All right. Of course, his father wanted him to, follow in his footsteps. Okay, so he did everything he could to keep him from being exposed to suffering. All right. Now remember, his father was a king. Okay, he was a prince, so he probably, lived in a palace grounds, around wealth and, comfort and et cetera, et cetera. So how did his father keep him from being exposed to suffering? Because remember, if he was going to be exposed to suffering, then he would be a great spiritual leader. All right. So what did his father do? Basically, he, sheltered him. In a way, it was almost like imprisoning him. All right. He kept a large wall around the palace compound. Okay. So this Siddhartha grew up in luxury. He married at an early age. He married at an early age. He married a young woman that his father chose for him. So he had a son. He was educated and trained as a warrior to prepare to be king. Okay, to take over his father's role. All right. Everything was going really well. Okay, until Siddhartha said, forget that. Okay. There's probably thinking there's got to be more out there. Okay, there's got to be more, asking himself questions, of course. All right, so he disobeyed his father's orders and he left the royal grounds. He visited a nearby town, and what did he see when he visited a nearby town? He saw suffering. Okay, he saw the suffering of ordinary life. He didn't live what we would deem as an ordinary life. All right, so he saw this. What did he see? The things that he saw 4 things, and they're called the 4 passing sights in Buddhism. 4 passing sights. One was he came across an old man. Okay. But this man, he wasn't just that he was old. He was crooked. He was toothless. All right. So, remember, he's the son of a king. So they probably had access to some things that other people didn't. All right. Wealth afforded him and his family things. He came across a sick man, okay, who was being wasted away by disease. He came across a corpse being taken away for cremation. Okay, then he saw a sannyasin, okay, sannyasin, a wandering holy man or a renunciate, okay, who had no possessions, but he was at peace. So at the age of 29, Siddhartha Gautama realized his life was up and that he had been in a pleasant prison, okay, but a prison nonetheless, okay, keeping him from, exploration, keeping him from knowing things, keeping him from knowledge. And you would think that he would need to know these things, okay, in order to be a king. King serves people, okay. But again, his father knew that if he was exposed to those things, that he was going to go that way, as opposed to being a king and following in his father's footsteps. Okay, so seeing these things, okay, caused him to ask some questions. All right, question the meaning of human experience. Okay, what is this life all about? All right, and it threw him into a depression that kept him from enjoying his luxurious and carefree life. He couldn't enjoy it any longer, okay, because I done seen his suffering. I had never seen it, remember, since he was born. When he was born, the priest at his naming ceremony, all right, whenever the naming ceremony was, probably when he was young, all right. It varies, I think, from culture to culture, people who have naming ceremonies. I think I've heard about some where they will wait maybe till the child is even like 1 year old, sometimes maybe older, before they give the child a name, all right. So I don't know how long this was, but we know he wasn't grown, okay? So he had been in that prison, that pleasant prison, all of his, basically for like 29 years, okay? So from Siddhartha's perspective, he decided to what? Escape, all right? He took a last look at his family, his sleeping family, so he was doing this at night, his sleeping family and attendants, and he rode to the edge of the palace grounds. He gave his horse to the servant. He removed his jewels. He cut off his long black hair. He put on simple clothes, and he went out into the world with nothing. The only thing he had with him were the questions that he was asking. This is called the great going forth in Buddhism. All right. Now, remember, this is in India, okay? It is common in Indian spirituality to seek a teacher. All right, so this is what he did. He looked for a teacher. So he went from teacher to teacher. He learned techniques of meditation. He discussed philosophy, but he still was not satisfied. Okay, He begged for food. He slept outdoors, kind of like a renunciate, okay, or sannyasin, okay. And then he spent 6 years, okay, seeking the answers to his questions. What were his questions about? The troubling facts of suffering. Why are people suffering? What is this suffering all about? And death, all right? His own mother died young, okay, and that death seemed to have no meaning. Like, what was that all about? All right. He asked himself often, why is there suffering? Why do people have to grow old and die? Okay. Now remember, this man is coming from luxury all his life, 29 years of luxury. Okay. All right. Wealth. All right. Don't know what wealth was like back then, but you know, wealth. All right. Wealth is wealth, I would gather. All right. These were things that he didn't see. He questioned, is there a God? Is there an unchanging divine reality behind the surface of things? Is there a soul? Is there an afterlife? Are we reborn? Okay. India now. Hinduism. Okay. Reincarnation. So he's questioning these, philosophies, these Vedic philosophies here. Can we avoid suffering? How should we live? All right. Now, as he was seeking the answers to these questions, he found his teachers, they agreed with him, okay? They had agreed with him on some of his questions, but not on all of his questions, all right? So he found, well, I ain't gonna say he found, there were 5 other nomadic seekers, and they set out to find the answers that he needed. He set out to find the answers he needed. To rid himself of distractions, okay? To purify himself spiritually, he practiced great austerity by living on as little food, as little drink, and as little sleep as possible, hoping that he would find new insight, okay, and even gain spiritual powers, not spiritual awareness, okay, not, increase his, spirituality or anything like that, but no, he wanted to gain spiritual powers. So what happened? Okay, he ain't hardly eating, he ain't hardly drinking, he ain't hardly sleeping, okay, still human, okay. How long did he do this? He collapsed from weakness, all right. He was found himself resting under a sacred tree. No, he was found resting under a sacred tree, okay, by a woman. She came to the nearby town of Gaia to worship the spirit of the great tree, and she found him there collapsed. He was so emaciated, okay, that she may have thought him to be the tree spirit. She offered him food. Okay, of course he ate it. He was hungry. Shit, you know what I'm saying? She offered him food. He accepted it gratefully. Okay, and he ate under the shade of the tree, out of the sun, out of the house sun. All right. Once revived, he realized that, maybe I'm being a little too extreme here. Okay, they didn't strengthen him. They didn't bring him any closer to the answers he sought. It was just an exercise, almost like in futility. You know what I'm saying? Like just physical, all right? But it didn't bring him no spiritual powers. It didn't give him any kind of insight. So his 5 companions, all right, they discovered that he rejected this way of life, this extreme thing, being extreme. So what did they do? They abandoned him. Okay, that's what you're gonna do. You don't believe no more, probably from their perspective. All right, that's the road you're gonna go. We out of here. All right, so they left him on his own. So he decided to adopt a path of moderation, a middle way. Okay, a middle way, between self-indulgent and I always say this word wrong, asceticism, okay? You don't have to be one extreme or the other. What is it? Moderation in all things, okay? So he went to another tree, and the other tree that he went to is called the Bodhi tree, all right? He sat facing the east. He resolved to remain there in meditation until he found the answers to the questions that he was seeking. All right. Now, you have various traditions that give different details. Okay, we're going to go over them a little bit here. All right. But every version talks about his struggle with hunger, thirst, doubt, and weakness. All right. But let's look at some of the various traditions. Some describe the work of an evil spirit. Okay. Mara and his daughters who tempted Siddhartha with sensuality and fear, but he resisted all temptation. Where do we hear that? Another similar story, okay, with Jesus before he was to, he went to fast, okay, and pray. Okay, he didn't eat. Okay, and whatever else fasting, entailed. Okay, we believe fasting is not eating nor drinking. So he went to fast and pray, preparing himself for what he was going to have to do. And what happened, the devil came to him, right? Okay, according to the scriptures, okay, and tempted him 3 times. All right. But what? Jesus resisted the temptation. Here we see some similarities. During one night under the full moon, he was meditating. He entered an increasingly profound state of awareness. Now, legend says that he saw his past lives, fathomed the laws of karma that govern everyone. Remember, we talked about what karma is in Hinduism. I think it's the second video if you haven't seen it. And finally achieved insight into release from suffering and rebirth. He got the insight into that, what that was all about, and basically, how to be set free from it. Not what Hinduism was teaching about, moksha and karma, so on and so forth, okay? At last, at dawn, he reached a state of profound understanding called his awakening or enlightenment, okay? Enlightenment is Bodhi. That is why that tree is now called the Bodhi tree. All right. He saw suffering, aging, and death in a new way and understood and recognized them as inevitable. It's an inevitable part of life. Okay. There's going to be some suffering. You're going to age. Remember, this man was like 29 years old, 6 years, 35. Okay. Okay. How old was Jesus? 33. Okay. But never, when he was hung on a cross. Okay. So we're seeing similarities here. Okay. But he also saw the possibility of being released from suffering, being released from death, being released from this samsara, okay, this will that you constantly coming back. How can, that's the thing in Hinduism, how to come, release ourselves from this. Okay, he found had a new understanding. Okay. All right. Now, the tree. What is it about this tree? And it's interesting about this tree because what was that tree that Jesus preached under the tree? Was it the Sermon on the Mount? Here, I'm going to look it up real quick because I think it was 2 sermons he preached. I'm not sure. Excuse me. I'm seeing a lot about the fig tree that Jesus cursed. That's not what I'm looking for. Okay. It's something about a tree. And I'm not talking, again, I'm not talking about the fig tree that Jesus cursed. It's either the Sermon on the Mount. Oh, it's the same thing. Okay, I'm thinking about the Beatitudes. It's the same thing. Okay. But I think that's it. He preached under that tree. The Sermon on the Mount. Okay, where we find the Beatitudes. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sermon on the Mount. Now, when I went to Israel. Okay, it's a Mount of Beatitudes. It's a hill in northern Israel. Okay, in the Chorazin Plateau, it is where Jesus believed to have delivered the Sermon on the Mount. Okay, and when I went to Israel, I believe, yeah. Well, according to this, in Wikipedia, it says the traditional location for the Mount of Beatitudes is on the northern shore of the Sea of Galilee between Capernaum and the archaeological site of Gennesaret or Gennesar on the southern slopes of the Chorazin Plateau. The actual location of the Sermon on the Mount is not certain, but the present site, okay, also known as Mount Eremos, has been commemorated for more than 1,600 years, okay? Well, anyway, honey, if this is it, and I believe it is, when I went to Israel, it was a part of a tour. It was on a mountain, and there was a tree. It was a small tree, and they said that that's the tree. Okay. Yeah. Folks say a lot of things. Okay. It's a lot. I think there were like 2 or 3 burial sites of Jesus in the old, in the old city of Jerusalem. All right. But anyway, yeah, this is where we were. Okay, there's a tree. I said that's the tree that he preached this under. But I'm just showing the correlation of this, the significance of trees. And we will go, when we get to Judaism, we're going to see the significance of trees, okay, in Hebrew, okay, in Hebrew culture. All right, but let's get back to this. All right. Now, what is the influence of the tree and the moon on Siddhartha? The tree overheard with its thousands of leaves and twigs, despite its appearance of permanence, it's going to change, right? It would change, it age, and die. And the full moon with its brilliant light was a promise of new understanding. Okay, so this is the significance behind that story, all right? Whatever the cause of enlightenment, Siddhartha arose and said that he was now a person who had woken up. From this came his new name, what? The Buddha, which simply means the awakened one. He was awakened to what? To what? This profound understanding that, came to him when he relaxed himself, got him some food in his belly, okay, and wasn't so extreme about it, and practiced the path of moderation, and just sat basically in meditation or sat in silence. You know how people tell us, sometimes, when you're looking for answers, okay, the answers are within. Meditate or sit in a space and place of silence and listen, okay, and this is what he did. Couldn't do it before because he was starving himself practically, okay. All right, so his new name came the Buddha, or the awakened one, taken from the Sanskrit word meaning to wake up. That's simply what it means, to wake up. So can other people become a Buddha? Yes. Okay. All right. The Buddha remained for some time at this site of enlightenment at Gaya, savoring his new way of looking at life and continuing to meditate. All right. Gaia is spelled here G-A-Y-A. Okay. It is also spelled G-A-I-A as the goddess. Okay. Mother Earth. Okay. Hold on. Okay. One sister told me that Gaia actually means not just Mother Earth, but the Divine Mother manifesting herself as the Earth. I thought that was pretty dope. My daughter's name is Gaia, okay? And I don't want to get off too much into that, but this child, my daughter, basically told me her name, okay, when I was pregnant with her. We pregnant mothers, there is a lot of interaction that goes on between that child and that mother, okay, if we allow ourselves to be in tune to it. And it's so interesting because if anybody has ever seen Kirikou, okay, I got Kirikou for my daughter when she was just a little toddler, and I thought it was so interesting because the woman was pregnant with Kirikou, and she was tired. She was sitting up against the hut. A Frenchman who had lived in an African village wrote this story, Kirikou, okay, this children's story. And the child spoke to the mother. Okay, she was pregnant with him, and the child spoke to the mother, and he basically said, you know, hey, I'm ready to be born, you know. And his mom was like, any child who can speak from his mother's womb or whatever can birth himself. So the child walked right up out of her, and he looked at her. He said, hi, I'm Kirikou. Okay, I love it, you know. So he was telling her who he was, and I felt like that. Okay, that's what happened with my daughter. You know, I was pregnant. I didn't know if I was having a girl or a boy. I really thought it was a boy. And I used to be able to look at, when I was younger, man, like when I was a teenager, I could look at a woman, a pregnant woman, and I could tell them, oh, it's a boy, it's a girl, whatever. And I think I was only wrong like one time. I can't do that anymore. Okay. I mean, I probably could if I really concentrated, but it just came so easy to me back then. Okay. But anyway, so I thought I was having a boy. So I had a name picked out and everything. And I said, if it's a girl, this, that, and the other. I didn't know yet, but one night about 2 o'clock in the morning, I heard Gaia, you know, and I heard it as clear as day. And I said, okay, if it's a girl, I'll name her Gaia. So when I saw that animation, that cartoon Kirikou, I said, oh, she was telling me who she was. And that's what that child told. That child told his mother who he was, you know. So I think that's pretty awesome. We come through, you know, others. We come through that portal, you know, but they are their own being yet, even though they are connected and tied to us, you know what I'm saying? So I thought that was pretty dope. But anyway, let's keep on going. And I'm talking about the movie, the Kirikou, all right, but the Buddha stayed there for some time, once again continuing to meditate. Mythic stories relate that during this time, when a heavy downpour occurred, a cobra raised itself over him to protect him from the rain. In much of Asia, the snake is not considered a symbol of evil, but rather a protective animal. Okay, so in the Western tradition, okay, which is, you know, Western tradition and Western culture, a snake is looked at as evil, and we will understand why when we go into Judaism. Okay, in much of the rest of the world, a snake is not looked at as evil. A snake is looked at as wisdom. Okay, also we see here as a protective animal, and an eternal life. Okay, because you know the snake sheds its skin, yet it continues on. Okay, however many times in its lifetime it sheds its skin. All right, so you know, understand that difference. You know, so a lot of times it's interesting to me. It was interesting to me when I learned this, when I would hear people, you know, refer to something, use the reference of snake as to something or somebody evil or whatever, or bad. It just, or people being scared of snakes. It just kind of tickled me because it's like, that's in our part of the world. That's that Western tradition. That's that Judeo-Christian tradition. That's that Judeo-Christian culture, which is the religion and the tradition of the West, okay, which is what we are in. And if you're not sure what that means, Western, then take a look at me and Sunkiss. We've done Isis paper. She talks about that, what it is. That's not her theory. That part, okay, about the West, that's just true. You understand what I'm saying? All right. So when we talk about the West and the Western culture, we're not talking about north, south, east, and west in terms of direction. Okay, we are talking about culture. Okay, so when we hear that on the news, world news, and so on and so forth, when they're talking about the West, they're talking about, you know, this culture here that we live in that has spread itself globally, or, you know, white culture, okay, which has spread itself globally. All right, but let's continue on. All right, in much of Asia, okay, I already said that. At last, okay, the Buddha traveled west, and I'm not sure if it's in this chapter, because I wanted to talk about the swastika as well, which is, when we hear of the swastika, okay, which I'm surprised it's not in this book, because I thought it was, because I would go over it in class. We think of, you know, Hitler and Hitler's regime and, you know, all of that. No, the swastika is an ancient symbol long before that period of time, out of India, and it's eternal life. So, you know, like I would have my students, and I might do it for a video, I would have my students, when we went over each of these religions, I would have them, you know, for an assignment, go to these various places of worship. So when we did Hinduism, they went to a Hindu temple, you know, which I was surprised. I didn't think there was one here, okay? Cleveland got a little bit of everything, okay? It may not seem like it, but it really does. It's not like, you know, like a New York or a DC where you just walk out your door and bam, it's right in your face. No, you have to search out these things. And there was a Hindu temple not far from one of the campuses that I taught at, you know. So I would have my students go there. Of course, you know, I would have them go to a Buddhist temple, but nevertheless, when they went to the Hindu temple, they would see the swastika, you know. And I think I remember when I first saw it in reference to Indian culture, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, before I learned, you know, what it was, okay? But it is a symbol for everlasting life, eternal life. I think with the Hitler and the Nazi party and regime, I think they just turned it backwards. Okay, it goes in a different direction than the original, you know, direction that symbol goes in. All right, but I wanted to, you know, talk about it, and I thought it was in this book. It might be in my other book, the other class that I used to teach. This class was comparative world religion, and now I have my other book, Introduction to Religious Studies. But that's where I learned about it, you know, from teaching, you know, from having to get my plans and stuff together, you know, from teaching. All right, so if you are interested, you know, because I've gone to the Hindu temple. When I first started doing this, I would go with my students, and I would go with them to the Hindu temple, the Buddhist temple. We would go to a church. We would go to I gave them a choice to either go to a Catholic church or a Protestant church, and we would go to a mosque. I would go with them, but as time went on, it wasn't, you know, it just didn't make sense because everybody's schedule was completely different. But I'm gonna tell you where we did go, and I would like to be able to get her on video one time. I don't think she's gonna do it. There was the sister here who initiated me as a Kemetic priestess. Well, she has a temple, and at the time she had a temple in her home, in her basement. She wasn't following the Kemetic tradition at that time. She was following the Yoruba tradition at that time. But we would have a section after we got through with these religions, then we would talk just about various ones that weren't covered in class. So that was an opportunity for them to go somewhere, you know, that was not covered here in the book. So man, we had so much fun that day. Well, I always have fun when I went to her temple, okay? She has been doing spirituality and spiritual work for years, okay? I think maybe, I don't know if it was since the 90s. I don't know how long, but I know she's been doing it a long time. She used to read the, here in Cleveland on our station, our R&B station, you know, I think when the DJs were still running it, you know, not like it is now where, you know, you have these national shows and whatnot. She would read the, what is it, you know, the zodiac, you know, for the day, you know, for every sign, okay? So she's very well known here in the city, and man, we used to go to her temple. It was just so fun, okay, because it was open. It was just a freeing experience. It was a time to just come and just be free, you know. And she had her temple set up her way, you know. And so I had the students go one time. And she had a little different that day. I didn't know, you know. I don't know if I told her they were, because they went twice. I think the first time, I don't know if I told her. I think I told her, but I'm not sure. I told her ahead of time. I'm not sure. I know the second time I told her. First time, I don't know. And so where I taught, it was in Parma, which y'all don't know where that's at, for those who aren't familiar with Cleveland. It's in Parma, which is on the west side. And I don't think I ever had my Lakeland. Did I have my Lakeland students? I can't remember because it's been so long. But and then I taught downtown. Okay, the majority of students downtown, it was a diverse population. The other two campuses, it was like a white population. Okay. So the students would come, you know, come on in. Well, she lives in the suburb, but come on in further in this way, you know. And most of them were white, you know, and so it was a completely new experience for them. I mean, like they were not familiar with any of this, you know, culture or anything in any way, shape, or form. And that particular day, she had the music beat. We were in her basement. She had a refurnished basement, and you know, all her paintings and all her, you know, the statues of the various deities and whatnot, you know, and it was blue down there. The carpet was blue. I think the walls were blue too, but I can't remember. And she had the music playing. We had these African beats going, and they would dance. It was very sensual, okay, especially for the women, okay. It was more women in the temple than men, but it was very sensual. And she wore all white. And I think that day was a day that all the priestesses priestesses wore white, and we had the incense going. Well, I can't say we. She had the incense going and whatnot. And they would dance and everything. It wasn't like what she would do every Sunday. I can't remember what it was. What the particular day was that she did that. And then she had these gold plates, and she had just like a I don't know, just like a saying or something on there, or like a miniature type reading on each, on these little white sheets of paper, and everybody had to go around and pick one, and the students picked one, and those students, some of them, they were like, wow, it was so interesting, I never experienced anything like that. Some of it was just maybe like one or two they actually had to leave. I think one girl, she was allergic to the incense, and it was full of incense in there, so she had to step out. But a lot of them, they were just like, it was kind of hard for them to incense because they just weren't used to that. But they were saying the little sheets of paper, they were like, man, that was me, that was my situation, so it was just interesting. It was fun. But nevertheless, if you're interested, you just YouTube, if you want to. If you find a Hindu temple, go check it out. Find a Buddhist temple. If you've never been to one, go check it out. It's one Sunday out of the month. Ain't no devil's gonna jump up off on you and all of that type of thing for anybody that's afraid. You understand what I'm saying? And I would have students sometimes, and then I would have them write a paper on their experience, just a one-page paper on their experience. And it will really bother me sometimes when students would actually go expecting them to cater to them. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? That's their place of space and worship. Now, I'm not saying that, no, that they didn't have to speak to them or welcome them or greet them or anything like that. A lot of times they didn't. I mean, because it's like, especially if you go into like a Hindu temple, they know you are not a part, that you don't know anything necessarily about their worship, that you may not be Hindu, you're not dressed for it or anything like that, and you're going in puzzled, and sometimes some people won't speak to you. They just won't. They just gonna go on and do their thing, and but think about it before anybody gets attitude and say that ain't right. Sometimes we do the same exact thing. You may do the same exact thing in your place of work, maybe your place of worship sometimes, or even maybe your home, your family, your people. And then here comes somebody new. Everybody ain't about to run over and speak to that person. Not necessarily because they have anything negative against that person, or they don't want them there or anything like that. I think it's just the nature of people. But I told them, I said, well, if you had questions and you didn't understand what was going on, or you wanted something, then did you go say something to someone? No? Okay. Why not? Okay. Because me personally, if I walk in a space, I've been to those temples, and if I had a question, is this what I do? Am I supposed to go over there? I'm visiting. I'm a student, from such and such, and I'm studying comparative world religion, and now we're studying Hinduism, and my teacher, my professor wants us to come here, to experience your way of worship. Is there a particular place I need to sit? Do I need to take my shoes off? Is there someone that maybe can help me walk through the process? Something like that. Why? Because I've done it. I do it. As a professor, I went in, I'm teaching A, B, C, and D. Okay, and I'm teaching Hinduism, I'm teaching Buddhism, or whatever the case may be, and I really don't know, I've never been here before, I don't know what to do. Is there anything and usually when you do that, I never had a time, okay, now this is me, I never had a moment or an experience where a person told me, no, I can't help you. Never. Now, if they couldn't, they would let me know. I don't know exactly what to tell you, but I can lead you to someone who can, or they talk to somebody, a friend of theirs who might know better, okay, what to do, and let me know that, okay, when we get to this part, we're going to everybody gets up and then walks to each place and look at the pictures or the deities, blah, 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 this, that, and other. If you'd like to, leave, a donation, so on and so forth. Okay, nothing is required of you. Okay, so you don't have to, and if you're shy and you don't want to say nothing, then don't say nothing. But don't have this expectation that they're supposed to come talk to you, because no, they're not necessarily supposed to come talk to you. Okay, it would be nice, okay, to help you through your insecurity of being in a place that is completely foreign to you and new to you, but they don't have to. So don't be sitting in this place of expectation and having a nasty attitude because they didn't. Or did you go in there with your face all scrunched up and because a lot of times people, you know, especially I feel like in the West, we tend to do that. Now, I'm not saying people of other worlds and cultures don't do that. I'm talking about this one. Okay, turn our nose up. Say your name again. I can't say that. I can't pronounce that. Who the fuck wants to hear that type of shit? Okay, and you kind of demeaning them. Okay, I'm not saying that you would do that, whoever's watching, but I did have some students. I knew they did. I knew they walked in there with an attitude because they walked in a nasty attitude every time they walked in class. Okay, and scrunched their face up when it was something they didn't understand. So I know you walked in there with that attitude, and you couldn't wait to say in your paper, they didn't greet me. I don't give a damn if they didn't greet you. How was your experience otherwise in terms of the worship? Okay, what did you learn? Because you could have greeted them. Okay, and that's just how I look at it. You could have said hi to them. You could have opened your mouth and asked for some assistance. Okay, but you didn't. Okay, you wanted to have an attitude because it was someplace different. And a lot of times we fear things that are different, okay, and that we don't understand. All right, but nevertheless, so I was honestly thinking about for the videos to go to this place, you know, to go to these various places of worship and record it, but I don't know that I can. I have to ask. That was one reason why the local religious television show I had stopped, because we were in the studio, okay, and I would call these various religious leaders to the studio, and I would interview them about their religion. Okay, well, you get the basic tenets and whatnot. Well, one thing is, you know, after my very first show was a Yoruba. What was he? Oh my gosh, what do they call it? I can't remember his title, okay? But it was out of the Yoruba tradition. And I think we did 3 shows. I think it was 3 parts. Well, the people in the studio, they didn't understand him. They didn't know what they were talking about. And the lady, you know, the station manager wanted me to just focus on Christianity. What? How many episodes is that going to be? Okay? You're not going to do that. So I did it in a way. I had a Catholic priest in there. I had a Protestant priest in there. I know it's supposed to be Buddhism. We're going to get back to it. I had the Catholic priest in there. I had a Protestant, not priest, theologian come through. He was a pastor as well. And I did things like science of mind, things like that I felt they could understand. As time went on, then I moved on. Because what is the point? You can't have no viable show. And my goal, as I wrote up in the proposal, is to talk about, you know, the various, you know, religious traditions. All we're going to cover is the basic tenets, so on and so forth. You know, how many baptisms do you need to see? Okay. How many communions do you need to see? You understand what I'm saying? Or to talk about, because they're going to basically say the same thing in so many words, you know, like I said in the other video, okay, about the denominations and the difference with Catholicism and Protestant Christianity, okay. But after a year, what they wanted me to do was they wanted me to take the cameraman, okay, and the whole crew and take them in these various places of worship. And I didn't think that was appropriate to do that, because I'm not about to. I know sometimes maybe in the West we don't mind, you know, commercializing our shit, but to some other people things are sacred. You understand what I'm saying? So I didn't do that. They might have allowed it, but at the time I was like, I'm not comfortable with doing that, so I didn't do it. Okay, so I have to call and ask if that's appropriate. If they say no, you can't come in here with no camera and record shit, you know, record our sacred time, then it ain't gonna happen. You know, then I won't be able to do it. You know, I would like to do it, but if that's a problem, then I won't be able to do it. But if you're interested, you know, it's what, a couple of hours out of a day. I remember I was dating this guy, and I told him, I said, come on, let's go to the one Sunday morning. I said, come on, let's go to the Hindu temple. You know, he was kind of a quiet dude, okay, and he was just like, okay. He was street. Okay, he was a street dude, okay. Hey, but you know, the little things that I wanted to do or share with him, he was pretty open to it. All right, so he said, okay, you know. So we got ready and we went, and his friend called on our way there, and he said, we're on our way to the Hindu temple. And all I know, he started laughing. I said, what'd she say? And she was like, well, what's wrong with the Baptist church? You know, it was just funny. He was just like, well, she want me to go, take a look at this, see what this is all about, So, I'm open and shit like that. Let's just see what other people are doing, and explore and open ourselves to other realities. You know what I'm saying? Now, I ain't gonna lie, when I went to the Hindu temple, I went twice. I had no idea what the hell was going on. There was one time I went and they did the chants for the entire time, but it was like, that might have been the time that he went with me, because I think I took my daughter one time too. And it was just like an hour later and they were still chanting. And so I was like, well, I think all this gonna be for a little while. You know what I'm saying? So we left. But anyway, I was talking about the swastika. So the students, that was like one of the first things that they saw. Many of the students, though, a few, I ain't gonna say many, but there were students in every semester I had at that one particular campus. I don't think that was Lakeland. I think that was when I was out west at the Parma campus. They were familiar with some things already. Some of them had done their own reading, and just knew some stuff, which, well, okay, moving on with what I was about to say, but so some of them knew, what it was when they went in there. Some of them, they scared the shit out of them, like, what was that all about? So, that was an opportunity to talk about that in class, all right? But we're just going to finish with this. We're just going to finish talking about the Buddha for right now, Siddhartha Guatama, okay? And then for my next video, when I get into Buddhism again, we'll talk about the basic teachings of Buddhism, all right? But anyway, all right. So, mythic stories relate that during this time when I talked about the cobra. Okay, I talked about that. And then at last the Buddha, he traveled west. He explained his awakening, okay, to his 5 former companions, those who had abandoned him, okay, at a deer park at Sarnath near Benares. And there, I feel like, the author mentioning all of these places in these towns and the names of them, the trees and all that, their significance, okay, as to why. Although they had parted with him earlier, okay, although they abandoned him earlier for him, deciding he was going to do things more moderately, they reconciled with him, okay, and they became his what? His first disciples. Jesus wasn't the only one with some disciples, okay? They became his first disciples. The Buddha spent the rest of his long life traveling from village to village in northeast India, teaching his insights and his way of life. Teaching his insights, the questions that he had, himself, not his 5 companions. They followed him, okay? They became his disciples, okay? They were nomadic seekers too, but doesn't mean that they were seeking the same insights that he was seeking, that they had the same questions that he did, okay? They had their own, but yet they liked what he had come into, okay? They liked his understanding, so they followed him, all right? So what did he do? He was teaching his insights and his way of life. He attracted many followers, okay? Now remember, there was like religious unrest during this time, okay? Donors gave land. They gave groves and buildings to this new movement. This was a new movement. The Buddha thus began an order or a sangha of monks and later of nuns, all right? The Buddha's way was a path of moderation. Okay, so that was important, him seeing that, okay, being extreme is not going to work, but I don't want to be indulgent either. So what did he do? He didn't just adopt a path of moderation just to gain knowledge, of the questions he had, but, for his meditation, he adopted that as a way of life or a middle path, but not just for himself, but also for his disciples, okay? They adopted this way as well. It was midway between the worldly life of the householder, which he had lived before leaving home, okay, and the aesthetic life of social withdrawal, which he had followed after his departure from home, okay? So a householder, at home, okay, that's what he was. But then when he left home, he became basically like a renunciate, okay? He left everything behind and everyone, okay, in search of a spiritual knowledge and understanding that led to his spiritual awakening. Okay, the specifics of but the specifics of monastic community life and its relation to the non-monastic world on whom the monks relied for food had to be worked out over time. All right, tradition tells of the warm friendship the Buddha shared with his disciples and their way of life, wondering about begging and teaching. Now, my student had an issue with that. They did not like that begging. What do you mean begging? Okay, our understanding here in the West. Okay, we look down on that. All right. But this is what they did. It was almost like an exchange. Here's my new way of life. I'm sharing it with you all. This is what I have found. This is what I have been awakened to. This is what I have been enlightened to during this time of religious ferment and religious unrest. Okay. And in exchange, people gave to them. It's kind of like you see, like, maybe like in a sense the shaman. I'm not going to say the shaman was a beggar, but the shaman was taken care of. Okay, they gave him food, they gave him clothes, they gave him shelter, they took care of him for him to do his spiritual work. For who? For the community. All right. Okay, the monks remained in one place only during the monsoon months of summer. Okay, when the rains were heavy, that travel was impractical. Looking on his lifestyle from a modern vantage point, okay, we can see that it was a healthy one. Moderate eating, okay. There's what is the description about everything in moderation, Moderation. Too much water will kill you. I'm sure I'm not the only person who have heard of reports of people drinking entirely too much water. I remember when I lived in Memphis, Tennessee, this was reported that a radio show, this was what was I? In my kind of late 20s, okay? This radio show had a contest to see who could drink the most water, okay? This woman died, okay, from drinking. I guess you could say she won, I don't know, but she drank so much water trying to win this contest, she died, okay? And I had a friend here who told me that he used to drink 2 gallons of water a day. How he could muster 2 gallons of water a day, I don't. I went on a path like that one time where I was drinking a gallon of water a day. I mean, I was constantly in the bathroom, okay? But this man drank 2 gallons of water a day until his doctor told him, would you please stop? He was fucking up his electrolytes, okay? And basically told him, you on your way out of here. Okay, too much of anything, okay, can be a problem, all right? But as we can see, not enough can be a problem as well, all right? So even when, we think, well, it's healthy. So, sometimes, you see people, they're gaining weight or they can't lose weight, but they're eating all this quote unquote healthy food. It is healthy, but what's the caloric intake? I went on this path one time. I lost all this weight. I got down to a size 1, okay? I ain't never been a size 1 since I was 1, all right? It was just too small for me. I had never been that size in my life, okay? Even as a teenager, I had never been a size 1, all right? Well, but anyway, during my trainer, she would weigh us weekly. And one week I had gained like a pound or 2 or something like that. And I couldn't understand why. She said, what did you eat? I was like, I've been eating the same things I always eat. And she said, tell me, because I would eat a lot of salads. And tell me specifically what you put on the salad. So I had put some sesame seeds. Okay, because I hadn't been eating sesame, I hadn't eaten them. So I told her I would put sesame. How much did you put on there? I was like, I don't know. I just grabbed a handful of sesame seeds and put them on there. And she was like, do you know how fattening do you know the calorie intake of sesame seeds? They're very high in calorie, okay? Because it's concentrated. It's a little tiny seed. It's concentrated like nuts, very fattening, I don't know whether the seed's fattening or was it high calorie intake, whichever one, that caused the weight gain. Didn't do it for the next week. Cut out the nuts for the next week, I was right back down. You get what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, sometimes, just because it's a fruit, you understand what I'm saying, doesn't necessarily mean, or a seed or a nut, doesn't mean that the calorie intake isn't high or that the fat intake of it isn't high. So everything in moderation, things in moderation, not too much, not too little, all right? If you want that balance, all right? All right, but so just because it's natural and, all right. And I'm not just talking about weight gains. Again, well, it's healthy, yeah, but too much of something, okay, can still be detrimental. It can still have adverse effects, okay, even if it's quote unquote healthy. My dad, I used to eat a lot of fruit. I still kind of do. I don't eat as much as I used to, but I still kind of do. My dad was always like a health guru, okay, ever since he was a kid, okay, been working out, running. My dad used to take, buckets, okay, because his family was poor, but he was always into athletics and health. He would take buckets, fill them up with sand, put like a stick through the handles, and use it as barbells, and do squats with them and lift them and all of that type of thing. Okay. Even, when he was a young man, I'm thinking of this picture of him. I think he must have been like maybe in his early 20s, and he got that bucket, those buckets over his head. Okay. All right. I don't know if there was he had them buckets somewhere on it. I'm trying to think. If I look at the picture, was it over his head? But he had them in his hand, okay? That was his exercise, all right? Moderate eating, no alcohol, okay? He didn't drink. We're talking about the Buddha now. Daily walking, that's what they did. They walked from village to village, spreading, his word, okay? What he had come into contact with. Regular meditation. We know the importance of meditation, okay? Meditation is very helpful. I'm going to do a video on perimenopause, okay, and my experience with it, and what helped me, and I had joined some support groups, and what I had found that helped other women. Anxiety is one of the top symptoms of perimenopause. Now, we all have anxiety to a degree. We all have, fear to a degree. There's a healthy dose of it that we need to know: fight or flight. I need to run. Fear to save my life. You understand what I'm saying? And the anxiety has its purpose. But then when it gets out of hand, so one of the top recommendations besides a pill, okay, if you don't want to take no pill, okay, I'm talking about my experience with perimenopause. I'm not telling you to do anything, okay, if you are experiencing anxiety or perimenopause, all right? I'm not telling you that. I'm just saying that one of the things that was recommended was meditation, okay, because it helps to ground you, all right? And what else did he have? Pure air, because he was outside. That's why I'm sitting outside. It feels so good. I could be in the house right now doing this video, but I don't want to. I'm like, it feels good outside, okay? Pure air, breathing in that fresh air, okay? It feels good, fills up your lungs, and so on and so forth, okay? Now, probably because of this healthy lifestyle that he adopted, not because he wanted to lose weight and nothing like that, because this is what he found that helped him with his awakening and his enlightenment, all right? Probably because of this, the Buddha lived to an old age. When he was 80, legend says, the Buddha ate food offered by a well-meaning blacksmith named Chunda, but the food was spoiled, and the Buddha became terribly sick. Sensing that he was dying, he called his disciples. To those who were crying over his impending death, he reminded them that everything must die, even the Buddha himself. He then offered these final words of advice, in quote, "You must be your own lamps, be your own refuges. Take refuge in nothing outside of yourselves. Hold firm to the truth as a lamp and a refuge, and do not look for refuge to anything besides yourselves." And this is what he did, and finding out, okay, and looking for the answers to the questions that he had. He went where? During his meditation, under that tree that became known as the Bodhi tree. He took refuge within himself because he realized and recognized, these are my questions. This does not mean that these are the questions of everybody. Remember his background, his experience, and what he saw, okay, that caused him to have questions essentially about his life and about who he was, and to come to a greater understanding of life. He had to go within himself, and he took refuge within himself, got quiet within himself, still within himself, and the answers came, okay? All right. In other words, the Buddha's final instruction was this: trust your own insights and use self-control to reach what? Perfection and inner peace. Trust your own insights. Use self-control to reach perfection and to reach inner peace. Following this pronouncement, the Buddha turned on his right side and died. Okay. The many sculptures, paintings of the so-called reclining Buddha may be images of his serene moment of death. In any case, Buddhists idealize the Buddha's attitude toward death as a model for everyone. I am going to take pictures and put it at the end of this video see, it's raining now. Roll up my window a little bit. I'm going to take pictures of him, Siddhartha depicted, when he was hungry. Okay. okay, when he was being extreme, okay, before he decided, okay, now it's time for some Taco Bell. That's what my aunt said. She was like, during Monday through Friday, she's like, I'm on it health-wise. She said, come Saturday, now it's time for some Taco Bell. She loved Taco Bell, okay? We used to hang out every Saturday, and every Saturday when we got done shopping, she said, Nikki, well, y'all call me Kenyatta. She said, Nikki, take me to Taco Bell. And I took her to Taco Bell, all right? And then here's another picture of the Buddha, reclining on his side, all right, when he died, all right? So I'm going to take those pictures and put it at the end of this video. And that's it right now on Buddhism, all right? And then we're going to get into it, the teachings of Buddhism, honey. I love Buddhism. I love talking about Buddhism, all right? It is just so, to me, commonsensical, all right? All right. Now, there's different forms of Buddhism here that I would go into when I would teach my students, all right? I may not for these videos. I might just get a basic and move on to the next. We'll see how I feel. We'll see, how I feel led. And that's the end of that, all right? If you got any insights or anything like that, please go ahead and comment. And go ahead and put in the comments, if you where you are, where you located, where you're looking at this video from. I might go into I'm looking at the various types of Buddhism. I might go into it, because I got a whole lot underlined. So I'm thinking, because I have a whole lot underlined, I saw them as important, So I don't want to skip out on what I think is important. All right. But like I said, it's been a while since I taught in the classroom. All right. All right. And that's it. Okay. All right. Y'all be blessed. Like, share, and subscribe to those of you who have subscribed. Thank you. I see my sub count is, rising up a little bit. I appreciate that. You can check out my website at kenyattasintuition.com for if you want readings, tarot readings, psychic readings. I do mediumship as well. I know I keep talking about, but I am going to do it. I'm going to get this Patreon going. Maybe this weekend, because I'll have more time this weekend to kind of focus on it. I got some pendulums on there that I've made. If you all are interested in pendulums, I do a monthly pendulum class if you're interested. What else? That's it. Me and Queen at Sun-Kissed Spiritual Consulting, we're still reading the ISIS papers. So check that out. We try to do it every night, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. I think that's it. I did mention in my birthday video, I used to make waist beads and whatnot. If you are ever interested, don't look on my website for that, okay? You can contact me at kenyattasintuition@yahoo.com, all right? And I can show you what I've made in the past. If you're interested, no two are alike. Bracelets, anklets, necklaces. I don't do anything, like I said, nothing alike, all right? And that's it. My fragrances I used to make, I'm going to get back on that in a minute. Hopefully I'll have that ready by the summer. I know that's a few months away, but hopefully I'll be able to have that all put together by this summer. And I just want to make sure I throw in everything while I can. And I think that's it, all right? Y'all be blessed. Peace.